Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavrajagacharya Astasata Shishmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bolo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Angaranga. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're in the beginning of chapter 55, which is the history of Pradyumna. So I'll read the overview of the chapter, and then we'll go to text 1. This chapter tells how Pradyumna was born as the son of Lord Krishna and then kidnapped by the demon Shambhara. It also describes how Pradyumna killed Shambhara and returned home with a wife. Kamadev, Cupid, an expansion of Lord Vasudeva, had been burned to ashes by Lord Shiva's anger and was reborn as part and parcel of Pradyumna from the womb of Rukmini. A demon named Shambhara, thinking Pradyumna his enemy, kidnapped him from the maternity room even before he was 10 days old. Shambhara threw Pradyumna into the ocean and returned to his kingdom. A powerful fish swallowed Pradyumna and was caught by fishermen in a net. They presented the huge fish to Shambhara, and when his cooks cut it open, they found a child within its belly. The cooks gave the infant to the maidservant Mayavati, who was astonished to see him. Just then, Narada Muni appeared and told her who the infant was. Mayavati was actually Kamadev's wife, Rati Dev. While waiting for her husband to be reborn in a new body, she had taken employment as a cook in the house of Shambhara. Now that she understood who the infant was, she began to feel intense affection for him. After a very short time, Pradyumna grew to a youthful maturity, entrancing all the women with his beauty. Once, Revati approached Pradyumna and playfully moved her eyebrows in a conjugal mood. Addressing her as his mother, Pradyumna commented that she was putting aside her proper maternal mood and behaving like a passionate girlfriend. Rati then told Pradyumna who they both were. She advised him to kill Shambhara, and to help him, she instructed him in the mystic mantras known as Mahamaya. Pradyumna went to Shambhara and, after angering him with various insults, challenged him to fight, upon which Shambhara angrily took up his club and marched outside. The demon tried various magic spells against Pradyumna, but Pradyumna fended off all of them with the Mahamaya mantras and then beheaded Shambhara with his sword. At that moment, Revati appeared in the sky and took Pradyumna away to Dwarka. When Pradyumna and his wife entered the inner chambers of Lord Krishna's palace, the many beautiful ladies there thought he was Krishna himself. So much did his appearance and dress resemble the Lord's. Out of shyness, the ladies ran here and there to hide themselves. But after a little while, they noticed small differences in Pradyumna's and Krishna's appearances. And once they understood that he was not Lord Krishna, they gathered around him. When Rukmini saw Pradyumna, she felt overwhelmed with motherly love, and milk began to flow spontaneously from her breasts. Noting that Pradyumna looked exactly like Krishna, she became eager to find out who he was. She remembered how one of her sons had been abducted from the maternity room. If he were still alive, she thought, he would be the same age as this Pradyumna standing before me. While Rukmini reflected in this way, Lord Krishna arrived in the company of Devaki and Vasudeva. Although Lord Krishna understood the situation perfectly well, he remained silent. Then Narada Muni arrived and explained everything. Everyone was amazed to hear the account and embraced Pradyumna in great ecstasy. Because Pradyumna's beauty so closely resembled Krishna's, the ladies in a maternal relationship with Pradyumna could not help but thinking of him as their conjugal lover. He was, after all, the exact reflection of Sri Krishna, and therefore it was natural for them to see him in this way. So now we'll go on to the verse, which is text 1. Shri Shuko Vacha Kamas tu Vasudevamsho Dagdha Prag Rudra Manyuna Deho Papataye Bhuyas Tam Eva Pratyapadyata Shri Shuko Vacha Kamastu Vasudevamsho Dagda Pragrudramanyuna Deho Papataye Bhuyas Tameva Prachapadyata Shri Shuko Vacha Kamastu Vasudevamsho Dagda Rudramanyana Deho Papataye Bhuyas Tameva Pratyapadyate Yata Shri Shuko Vacha Kamastu Vasudevamsho Dagda Pragrudra Manyuna Deho Papataye Bhuyas Tameva Prachapadyata Shri Shukuvacha. Shukadeva Goswami said, Kamaha, Cupid, to and Vasudeva of Lord Vasudeva, Amshaha, the expansion, Dagdaha, burned, Prak, previously, Rudra of Lord Shiva, Manyuna, by the anger, Deha, a body, Upapataye, in order to obtain, Bhuyaha, again, Tam, to him, Lord Vasudeva, Eva, indeed, Prachapadyat, came back. Translation, Shukadeva Goswami said, Kamadev, Cupid, an expansion of Vasudeva, had previously been burned to ashes by Rudra's anger. Now, to obtain a new body, he merged back into the body of Lord Vasudeva. So we can repeat. Shukadeva Goswami said, Kamadev, Cupid, an expansion of Vasudeva, had previously been burned to ashes by Rudra's anger. Now, to obtain a new body, he merged back into the body of Lord Vasudeva. So purport by the disciples and servants of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In his Krishna Sandarbha, Anucheda 87, Srila Jiva Goswami cites the following verse of the Gopaltapani Upanishad 2:40 to prove that the Pradyumna, who is the son of Krishna and Rukmini, is the same Pradyumna who is a member of Lord Krishna's eternal fourfold plenary expansion, the Chatur Vyuha. Yatrasau sanstita Krishna's tribi shaktya samahita ramani rudha pradyumnai rukminya sahito vibhu. There, in Dwarka, the Almighty Lord Krishna, endowed with his full potency, resided in the company of his three plenary expansions, Balaram, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. The Krishna Sandarbha goes on to explain, with reference to the present verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that the Cupid whom Rudra burned up with his anger is a demigod subordinate to Indra. This demigod Cupid is a partial manifestation of the prototype of Cupid, Pradyumna, who is a plenary expansion of Vasudeva. The demigod Cupid, being unable to attain a new body on his own, entered within the body of Pradyumna. Otherwise, Cupid would have had to remain in a perpetual state of disembodiment, a result of Rudra's having incinerated him with his anger. In his English rendering of the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.14.30 purport, Srila Prabhupada confirms the absolute status of Pradyumna, Lord Krishna's first son. Pradyumna and Aniruddha are also expansions of the personality of Godhead, and thus they are also Vishnu Tattva. At Dwarka, Lord Vasudeva is engaged in his transcendental pastimes, along with his plenary expansions named Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and therefore each and every one of them can be addressed as the personality of Godhead. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Pradyumna took birth from the womb of Rukmini before Sri Krishna's marriage to Jambavati, and the Lord's other marriages took place. Subsequently, Pradyumna returned from Shambhara's place. But before Shukadeva Goswami tells of Krishna's pastimes with his other wives, he will narrate the entire story of Pradyumna for the sake of continuity. Srila Sridhar Swami further notes that Kamadev, or Cupid, now appearing with Pradyumna, is a portion of Vasudeva because he is manifest from the element Chit, consciousness, which is presided over by Vasudeva, and also because he, Cupid, is the cause of material generation. As the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita 10:28, Prajanas chamsa Kandarpa, of progenitors, I am Kandarpa, Cupid. So, Omagana Timiranda Shakanachna Chakshuru Militam Yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That's a lot of layers. Thinking about who Krishna is, the fact that Cupid decided to manifest through, Pradyumna, they're all tied to Krishna, they're all parts and parcels and all these, Chaturvyuha, and you see, at least speaking for myself, I'm not a scholar, and so this is, it like all swimming around in my head, and quite overwhelming, but then, obviously, at least for me, what comes to mind is a chincha. This is unfathomable. It's just inconceivable that, all these things, are taking place, and, how to work this out. And so, in part, I was also thinking about some of the things that my spiritual master was talking about when he was giving class yesterday. And one of those things that stood out for me in all of this is seeing how everything is connected to Krishna, right? Of this oneness and differenceness, it's simultaneously one and differenceness. The achincha beta abeta tattva, inconceivably simultaneously one and different. And that the understandings, or the misunderstandings, the misconceptions, and our inability to understand this oneness and how everything is connected to Krishna is due to our separation from Krishna, due to our separation of understanding who Krishna is. And so this, for me, just avalanched into understanding or thinking about what our pain and suffering and misunderstandings and misconceptions are due to, our disconnection from Krishna, the separation from Krishna. And that it's this material desire to acquire things because, again, we're seeing, it's like, the image that came into my mind was, it's like going into a store and we're just seeing that, all these things are for me. This is what I want to acquire. This is meant for me. This belongs to me, or this can belong to me. And I can use this to satisfy all my needs, when ultimately what it's about is, again, understanding that everything belongs to Krishna. Everything's connected to Krishna. So any misunderstandings, and the only way that we're going to understand Krishna is by connecting to him, by, again, through bhakti yoga, because that's the whole point, is that we've separated ourselves, our consciousness, our understanding. We have these material colored glasses on, and the only way to reconnect to Krishna is through bhakti yoga. And that yoga, meaning to link, to yoke, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through bhakti, which is the head and the heart. It's using our intelligence, as well as our emotions to connect back to Krishna. Everything, in other words, using everything that we have, because that's what we have. Obviously we have a body, and we have a brain, and we have a heart, and I would say those are the most important things. And it's about using those and learning, again, to love Krishna and how to love Krishna. It's because we've decided that we really want to selfishly just love ourselves and our own needs and try to suck those in and see them and identify them, as our own, that, again, we cause all our pain and suffering. And the degree to which we don't see ourselves connected to Krishna is the degree to which we're experiencing any kind of pain or misunderstanding, misconception, all these things that we have to deal with. And so I was thinking about this, because it's overwhelming, and, certain things like, trying to understand how Ratidev is seeing, this child as her husband. And, and him saying, this is kind of off, but, this is above our understanding and our pay grade spiritually. But, at the same time, you can understand that they're not seeing themselves, and especially her at this time, and it's a pastime, they're seeing themselves not as the body. And again, here comes our misunderstanding, is thinking that we are a body and that everything we have to obtain and gain is through this and through the senses and satisfying those senses. And so the only thing that's really going to give us clarity, is understanding our relationship with Krishna and who he is. And so I wanted to read one of the things that was one of the last verses that my spiritual master mentioned. I wanted to go back and read it and connect it, to what I was thinking about today. And it's verse 9:13 in the Bhagavad Gita. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. In this verse, the description, and Prabhupada goes on to share, in this verse, the description of Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of Mahatma is that he is already situated in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature. So again, here we go, is the great soul, that soul that's connected to Krishna, is not manipulated or controlled by, understands what the material nature is, understands who Krishna is. And that's what we have the potential of becoming, is a Mahatma, is to become a great soul being connected to Krishna. So that's everything that we're doing. That's our whole purpose in chanting the Maha Mantra in a personal way, is to develop our personal relationship with Krishna and to expose our personalism. Because right now we're covered up with impersonalism. We're covered up with our material view and our material identity versus our spiritual view and our spiritual identity, right? And so we all have that potential nature inside our souls. It's not that we can't become Mahatmas, right? We can become these great souls through love of Krishna and through understanding. One of my spiritual master's favorite verses is 6:30, and it's seeing everything in Krishna and Krishna in everything, right? And having that understanding alleviates, again, all the misunderstandings, all the misconceptions, our material perspective, and takes us into this place where we can actually understand these pastimes and not take them from a mundane perspective. Because if you think about Revati thinking about her son as her lover, you're thinking, okay, that's really perverted, but not understanding that this is on a very different level. These misunderstandings, these misconceptions are due to our material perverted conditioning of thought process, right? And so how is this affected? That is explained in 7th chapter. One who surrenders under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. That is the qualification. One can become free from the control of material nature as soon as he surrenders his soul to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the preliminary formula. Being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he is put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivi Prakriti, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way by surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one attains to the stage of great soul, Mahatma. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside of Krishna. So another requirement, right? Because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma or great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas. So there's how to do it, right? What we can become is by our association through Srimad Bhagavatam, through chanting, through having association of the devotees, by having association of these other great souls that have perfected this. The Mahatma does not divert his attention, there is no doubt, okay. Such a Mahatma or great soul develops through association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted to Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or of a human being. They meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in the unswerving devotional service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness. So again, here this thing of trying to figure out all these complicated layers of what's connected to what, at least for me, and my simpleness and not ability to go to that level of understanding. Sometimes I wish I did, but just coming back to the fact that I just want to learn how to love Krishna. I just want to learn how to simply love Krishna. And in learning how to love Krishna, I want to be able to learn how to love all his parts and parcels. I want to learn how to see every single soul and every living entity connected to Krishna, so that I'm not misunderstanding the fact that all of this belongs to him. And then how can I care for that? How can I care for myself in Krishna consciousness? And how can I care for other living entities because they're connected to him, right? And then with that mood and with that vision, and becoming this Mahatma who understands clearly this soul inside of every living entity and how that soul is connected to Krishna, understanding how things work, then, we're in this place of Mahatma. We're in this place of a pure devotee and our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, And so again, I was thinking of this as going to a little bit deeper of thinking how the deeper we go into taking shelter of Krishna, the greater our protection, which is what Prabhupada mentioned in this verse, is that our protection is in taking shelter of Krishna. And this peacefulness that we receive, where we're like the lotus and the water drop that just rolls, right? I mean, we're unaffected by all the things in this material world. And the greater our protection and peacefulness is, then we're working cohesively as all these interconnected cells of this greater oneness that we are in relationship to Krishna. Obviously, we remain as our individual selves, and that's because as many individual, innumerable living entities on an atomic level are all having single individual relationships with Krishna, meaning he has that many different moods of wanting to connect to those things that are connected to him, then, we're working as this, one cohesiveness. And that's what Prabhupada has mentioned too in his verses of that's what the oneness is understanding our connected to Krishna, that how we are connected to Krishna, and that by feeding the stomach, we feed everything, right? By serving Krishna, all the purposes are taken care of by the one well. And the problem is that when we take on our material mentality and don't see ourselves connected to Krishna, we're like a rogue cancer cell, right? And we go in and everything becomes destructive and painful, right? Because we're disconnected with Krishna. And that, this cancer causes greater and greater pain the more and more it goes. So the further we go from Krishna, the further the further the soul turns away from Krishna, the deeper the pain is. And it's like this rogue cancer cell that's causing all this mass destruction, of the soul's ultimate purpose of being connected to Krishna. And so, again, where does all of this reside? Because I was also thinking about that, is it resides internally. This is all about developing our internal mood, because that's where Krishna is. Krishna's internal. He's in our heart, right? I mean, he's in every living cell, of course, but, this whole thing of Krishna consciousness is about realizations. It's about, our internal connectedness with Krishna in the heart. He's residing in the heart. And so that's where we're trying to go with this. We're not trying to go with all the external things. We're not trying to go with thinking that we're the body and thinking that we're, all these material machinations and how,
we can have all these things externally. It's about our consciousness, which is internal. It's about our heart. It's about everything. Everything is about this internal relationship, developing this internal relationship with Krishna, so that we can see things. And you could say that that was the case with Revati, is that obviously, I mean, these personalities are just amazing and directly related to Krishna. And so, she has the internal understanding and, through pastimes reminds him of their understanding. So, again, it's about this internal understanding of relationship with Krishna. And so that's, what this inspired for me was encouraging me to go back and think about and continue to think about how I can develop my internal relationship with Krishna and how I can see everything connected and part and parcel of Krishna so that I don't have any misunderstandings. And so that I can, deal with whatever it is that I have to, because we have to also be in, as Jesus Christ said, was, be in the world but not of the world, right? And that's really kind of the essence of what we're trying to do, is that we're here, we have to manage in the material world, manage with all the limitations that come with it, and take the responsibility for the fact that we actually plopped ourselves here, right? Yeah, that we dropped ourselves back in because of our, desires to be here. So we have to take that responsibility and deal with it. And at least from my own personal struggle, is that I have to deal with my body. I mean, pretty much every day I get up is, it's not fun. And it's not a good day. I'm in pain in some form or fashion, or, having some kind of struggle that I'm having to deal with. But I can understand that, even at a young age of 62, that Krishna's encouraging me to go into this internal relationship with him and not depend on my body, because I can't depend on it. It's so undependable. It's one of the infallible fallible soldiers, that it's not something that we can ever depend on. Same thing, think about, all my different relationships, and knowing that at the time of death, ultimately, I've got to be very, very dependent on that relationship with Krishna, that internal dialogue, those personal interactions prayerfully, or either be purified at the time of death to be able to have that, in my next life somehow, But again, it's about taking responsibility for understanding why we're here, developing this internal relationship and this love for Krishna, and figuring out, how we can do that. By connecting him, and especially through the chanting. I mean, it's just, and again, if that internal relationship is about the personalism. And so when we're chanting, and I'm doing this to remind myself, is remembering that while we're doing it, it's not just to get the 16 rounds done and out of the way, and okay, I can do any damn thing I want, which is what Prabhupada said. It's about, understanding that our relationship with Krishna is within each one of those mantras that we chant. He's sitting there waiting for us. He's dancing on our tongue. But, how intimate are we making, how personal are we making our chanting, right? And I'm saying that again to encourage myself, because like many of you, I have a lot of responsibilities. And so it's very easy to get redirected into, okay, I've just got to get my rounds done so I can get all my to-do list done and stay caught up, and, all these other things. But it's really about finding our heart. It's really about, like Hanuman opening his heart and finding the Supreme Personality inside, and that's what we're doing. So we've got a few more minutes. I don't know if anybody has any comments or thoughts or their own personal realizations or questions or... Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Mm. 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 Wow. Mm. Right. And that's amazing. Yeah, Sadhvi was sharing a story about a god sister who was leaving her body, who had a strong connection with, took care of, and created two wonderful, beautiful, big greenhouses of Tulsi. And she's connecting this at the time of her passing. You know, she said, Vrinda's here. And so her connection was tying it back into remembering Krishna at the time of death. And for me, that stimulates that, you know, there's Babas and Bibabas and all these things related to Krishna, and that obviously Tulsi Devi is intimately connected with Krishna, and that ultimately, you know, our service and our humility and everything else also is with the mood of serving the servant of the servant of the servant, and that Krishna says, you know, those who think they're my servant aren't my servant, but those who serve my servants are my servants. So, you know, like big picture is, you know, remembering Krishna at the time of death, but certainly remembering, because I also remember a past time where somebody had asked Prabhupada if they remembered him at the time of death, would they go back to God? And he said, that's enough. You know, so, and of course everything is individual situation and depending on where that soul is situated, but I'm sure as devotees, Krishna has taken personal responsibility for each of us, and I've heard that many times. Once we take up devotional service, Krishna's in charge of everything. It's not a matter of karma, that it's a matter of, you know, token reactions and all these other things, but Krishna's the one who takes control at that point. And I'm sure as devotees that he'll make that arrangement for each of us because, you know, as we continue to come here day after day and do service day after day, he understands the sincerity, he understands the struggles, but below that he sees what's really in the heart, and I'm sure he'll manifest. And I think about that, you know, all the time in serving my spiritual master, that I have so many faults and things, but he continues to see what the core essence of what I have to offer is. And I'm sure Krishna does the same for each of us. He sees what we have to offer devotionally. So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to the association of the devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Radha Golokananda Ki Jai.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa pritimanti pasyanti panti kayanti chiram dadanti ananda chinmaya sadhu jala vigrahasya govindam adipurusham amaham bhajami 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 govindam adipurusham.
Namo, Namo, Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Iti Namine Namo, Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Sundyavadi Vaskachale Satarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vaskachale Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe Jaya, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe Jaya, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Giri Govardhan, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pavanichari, Hatsaper Sada Shishimada Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Sivasi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jai Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shai Mukunda Radha Vrinda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mai Pranavdi Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Brihat Madanga Ki Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And I just want to make an announcement that, of course, Saturday is going to be a festival here for Hare Krishna Maharaj's Vyasa Puja. And so we'll have Harinam Sankirtan the next day on Sunday here in Hillsborough. So we invite everybody to come at 11:30 at Weaver Street Market on Sunday. And I guess we'll hear the schedule for Saturday. Starts at 11. Okay. And where is that going to be? Prabhupada Hall. Prabhupada Hall at 11. So we can we'll have a nice festival for His Holiness Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Oh. Oh yeah. This is really important. It's Omkar's birthday. I think it's Radha Rangini's birthday too. Double birthday. Haribo. Chaitodarpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya kairavya chandrika vitaranam Yajadu jivanam anandam buddhi vardhanam pratipadam pranamrita swadanam sarvatma snapanam paramvijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis tatrapitani amita smaranena kala etadrishita vakripa bhagavan mamapi Dordaiva midrishami hajjani nanuraga Trinada pisu nichena tarora pisu hishuna Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamai Mama janmani janmani ishvare Bhavatad bhaktir ahoitaki twai Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishameva mabuddha Kribayata vapada pankaja stita duli sadrashim vachintaya Nayanam galadashu daraya varanam gadgadurudaya gira Pulakarnishitam vapukada tavanama grahane bhavishyati You got happy birthday Nam hakshusha pravishayatam Shunayatam jagat sarvam govindam virahename ashlisha vapadamritam anastumam adarshanam marma hatakaro duva yatatatava vidadatu lampato mat prananatastu sa eva napara Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all living, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental energies, you have invested all your transcendental, even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the Lord's feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand and end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. Oh, I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Shastika Ki Jai.